Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Esther, also known as Schmexy Pants. Welcome to my channel. I wanted to talk today about the importance of repetition to goal achievement, getting where we want to go, and shifting kind of our whole life. So, a few years ago, I was living with a pretty significant physical disability and I wasn't happy with my life, to say the very least. I had been told a few years prior I would never dance again, that I would always be poor, always live with my parents, that I would never stand up straight. And so I was pretty discouraged, pretty depressed, and it led me to therapy. And that was really helpful, and I encourage it to everybody, go get your mindset right. If you're not in those dire straits, or even if you are, I still really recommend listening to speakers often like Abraham Hicks or Tony Robbins or Bob Proctor. And I say it over and over again. So why am I pushing the repetition? Well, for a few things, because that's what they push and that's what I've learned from them, but also because it's really helped me to change my mindset and to shift my paradigm. So what the heck do I mean by paradigm? Why do I have cards that say shift paradigm? So Bob Proctor defines paradigm as a mental program that controls our habits. And so this is something that's on our subconscious mind and that we pick up as children. So we have our conscious mind where we think, and then our subconscious mind where it's like our emotions and everything that goes on. So I'll give a good example. You've probably heard the statements like practice makes perfect over and over in your life, or that you need to work hard to kind of create the life that you want. Or maybe you've heard like me, oh, you're too sensitive. And so whether meaning to or not, our society, our caregivers, everybody around us gives us this internal programming that becomes our mental dialogue, and so how can we break out of it? Well, by impressing new information to create a new paradigm to shift. Now, this does not happen overnight. It would be wonderful if it did, but sometimes we need to take the time to kind of reprogram new things, what we desire, back into it. So by creating that repetition, it starts to create these new neural pathways, creates these new paradigms, it creates a new shift. So, there are lots of different examples where I can see of people, offering repetition. I'm one of those people who works with affirmations. Louise Hay is how I kind of got a lot of that information. She suggests saying certain affirmations like I fully approve of myself over and over in the mirror. Even in school, we're taught to study. It's impressing that information over and over and over. So why is repetition more important? Yeah, okay, so, you might say, oh, I know this stuff. You might know it, but if it's not embedded into your being, your old paradigm will take over. Your old mental patterns were created by, these habits. We do the same things every day. We think the same way. The other important piece about repetition is even if you know it, you might hear something again that you didn't really process, or you might notice it differently. Right now I'm rereading The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, and I find it really helpful, especially for me, the always do your best, not beating up on myself when I'm not perfect. You know what I mean? It's again, this practice makes perfect. Oh, I need to show up in perfection. So I've been reframing that the last couple days as practice leads to expansion and growth. So I really highly recommend that if you can find a speaker or somebody who you really resonate with, I'll give a couple examples in a minute, but if you can listen to them every day for 30 days, even if you only have 5 minutes on your drive home from work, or while you're, brushing your teeth at night or in the morning or something, I think that you'll notice some real shifts. So some people who I really like to listen to, as I've mentioned, Abraham Hicks, Bob Proctor, Tony Robbins. I also really like Bashar Channeling, if you like the more out there stuff, Eckhart Tolle, Kim Eng I really like, Thich Nhat Hanh. There are so many, Jay Shetty. Just find one person who has kind of a mindset talk or is in the position of where you'd want to be, that you really resonate and listen for a few minutes each day. Another way you can do this, if that does not resonate with you and you want something a little bit more personal or hands-on, is you can say affirmations to yourself in the mirror every day for a few minutes. You can write out scripts. I know there's a lot of like manifestation courses that I've seen where there's like an I statement or I'm so happy and grateful now, that statement that you would write out, between 10 and 50 times a day. Do that if that resonates with you. Another thing you can do is, I've definitely done this, is you can write something out on a card, like a quote or something, and post it somewhere that you'll see it every day and really kind of feel into it for a few minutes each day. I gave the example earlier of, oh, you're too sensitive. And so a coach once gave me this Glennon Doyle quote, which was, I'm so sensitive that I can change the world. And so if you can do any one of these things, I'm just going to look at my notes to see if I wrote a different one. Oh yeah, you could also make a Pinterest board that you look at every day. That's something that like you really want to achieve. So does this repetition actually work? Well, for me, I was told, like I said, when I was younger, that I would never dance again. And so in February this year, I started taking my first jazz class since I was 17. I'm 37 now. But I would visualize myself being healthy and fit enough pretty consistently. I would follow ballet pages on Instagram and watch these ballerinas. And I mean, I have no aspiration to be a ballerina. They're some of the most intense athletes on earth, but I would see them being vital and I would be happy for them and I would feel into the excitement and the grace of the movement. And I would really feel emotionally invested in it. And I would watch it over and over and over. I remember when I was gearing up to make my tarot deck, which most of you know about, or if you've been following this channel or my Instagram for a while, and I really didn't know how I was going to do it, but I would feel into how cool it would be to be able to create all those drawings to hold. I would feel to holding the deck in my hand, and I would tell myself over and over, like, I am going to create a tarot deck. Now, something that I do want to mention that both Bob Proctor and Tony Robbins talk about, and also what I've experienced in myself, is that your old programming, your old paradigm will fight you. This is another reason why the repetition is important, because it's very easy to get down on ourselves and to say, I haven't seen results yet, it's not going to happen. Or for people in our environment, say, like, be satisfied with what you have, or how are you going to do that? All of these things. And, it's something that has probably kept you safe. So when these thoughts of I can't do it or whatever come up, I really think that it's important. This is something from acceptance commitment therapy. Russ Harris has said, you can say something like, okay, thanks, brain, for that information. And then you can decide if it's really helping you. I think Gabby Bernstein also talks about this, and she would be another good person to listen to if you're wanting somebody different, if none of the people who I've mentioned resonated with. Thinking that protector part of ourselves, but then saying, is this how a person who has achieved X or who's done X would want to behave? Is this the type of thoughts that they would have? And if it isn't, okay, thanks for the information. And then reinforcing with, again, that repetition. What would this person say? I like to even look at it as, what would I say to a small child going through this? Would I be encouraging? How would I speak if I had a small child with me? Would I feed them over and over and over words of affirmation, or would I plant seeds of doubt? So this is kind of that repetition, and I know I'm repeating myself, and it's intentional. That repetition saying, I can do it. I see myself in this light. Listening to those people who are reinforcing this. We're creating a new emotional experience in our body. We're planting this in our subconscious. We're really getting invested in it. And you might not be where you want to be next week. That's okay. Feeling into it more and more and more, knowing that the good that you desire is coming, setting those goals to shift for yourself, to do better each day. And so many different people say getting 1% better each day, it adds up a lot over the course of a year or two. So I hope that this helps. If you have any questions, feel free to put it in the comment box. And I hope that you have a beautiful day. Like, share, and subscribe if you like this type of content.